This is my first presentation ever, so I am on pins and needles, and this was scraped together over the last 2 weeks because I wasn't even sure that I was going to be able to attend. In addition, I was originally presenting with another guy. I was planning to lean on his experience, and unfortunately he was not able to make it, also at the last minute, so that was fun. Actually, I went through the 5 stages of grief whenever he told me he wasn't coming. At first it was like, what do you mean you're not coming? Like, I can't believe that you didn't, we worked so hard to get approved, and then you're failing on me, and then it was anger. It was like, I can't believe I'm your favorite coworker, and you're going to go see your grandson walk across the graduation stage. Like, what the heck, man? But life goes on. So this is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Adventures in Moving a Data Center. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Clayton Slaughter. I work for IBM. Specifically, I work for the IBM-Z Dallas ISV Center. Some of you may have heard of us. But for those who haven't, we provide virtualized sandbox systems, Linux, ZOS, ZVM, to ISVs so that they can develop and test on them. So originally, our data center was located with our team in Dallas, and we were told that we would need to be moved, or we would need to move the data center to Poughkeepsie. It's one of the only sites available that could house us, that had the power requirements, the cooling requirements, etc. So they let us know, and it was one of those things people were murmuring about, talking about. We need to start planning for this. By the time it was official and we were really starting to make movement, we had 11 months. Now, my team has been through moves before. We've moved across the Dallas area a couple of times, but it's a pretty big difference between moving from, a couple, like maybe 50 to 100 miles at most, to 1,600 miles. So there's a lot of planning and consideration that goes into that, and especially considering the time constraints. It was not a conventional move, okay? So how do you pull something like that off? And my answer to that is, of course, immediately it stops doing what I wanted to. There we go. I would say there were 2 keys to success that we had, and both of them come down to our team. One is that our team is close-knit. We spend a lot of time together. We spend after hours together. If there's a Super Bowl party, we all hang out and have barbecue and shoot pool. And that is a valuable thing to have on a team, because when you are putting in 14 or 18-hour days and you're tired, sleep deprived, you've been working and going, it's really good when you can get along and not kill each other. So that's one of it. The other thing is that we have several people on our team who are incredibly gifted at planning and execution. Specifically, our team lead, he's kind of in the center there, sort of, got his glasses. He is meticulous, and that is imperative in a move like this. One of the big concerns is obviously that, we're staying in Dallas and our data center will be so far away. We have to know, down to what cables are plugged in, where are they run through, how far is it from these machines, what kind of power requirements do these machines have, how much cooling is this using, how much is the floor loaded. All of these things have to be taken into consideration, and I would say he did pretty much all of that. He worked with the architects, he worked with the electricians, he worked with everyone to have all of this planned out, all of it documented, so that whenever we set to work, he had a list of, this cable goes into this port on this machine, and it is exactly this length to this next machine, and is plugged into this port. That level of detail was one of the reasons we were successful, one of the reasons we were able to do this. Some examples of that planning. There was a lot of meetings, a lot of sitting down and understanding, exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to execute it. So the other guy that is particularly gifted is also shown in this photo. That is my friend Jones, or Jonesy as we like to call him. Jonesy is also gifted with being meticulous. And so the two of them together really made this go. Jones came up with a labeling scheme for us to figure out how we could organize our boxes and get them onto the trucks, which trucks they would be on, what floor tile they were going to once they got to the new location, all of that. And here we can see him proudly standing next to his work. That's that label up in the corner there. I kind of got started here. I wanted to point out this is, go ahead.
Did you, the location we were going to, was that all built? You just sitting there waiting for you, or were you involved in building that as well?
So that was one of the challenges our team had. Because of the limited time frame for our move, because we were just coming out of the COVID pandemic, and because of budgeting, supply constraints, etc. No. The floor was half built, and none of the cable was laid, nothing was there. We had one rack for some network gear that happened to be delivered ahead of schedule, and so we had one rack sitting on the floor when we got there. None of the machines were there. Like I said, the electricians had done their job and installed power, but none of the cabling for network connectivity, and only half the floor. And we'll actually get to see that in some later photos. There is some floor. So let's move on a little bit. So one of the first activities that really kicked this off was a cable party. So, yes, and it was a party. It was, everyone, good times were had by all. So the plan was, we knew where all the machines were going. We knew what the distances were, and we had a little bit of budget for cables. So we ordered quite a lot of Ethernet and fiber, and we bundled them together. You unroll them, right? Like they come rolled up, you unroll them, you bundle them together, you label them, you roll them back up, you stick them into a box, and then you ship them ahead of yourself to New York so that when you get there, we can start laying that cable down and have everything in place when the machines arrive. So these next few photos are,
How we didn't have any bus and tag cables.
Bus and tag cables. I'm led to believe those things weigh.
Well, it depends on the blue ones or the gray ones.
So we had a map of our new floor, and this is how we were able to do a lot of this planning. We were able to say, okay, this machine is here. Each of these squares is a floor tile that's 2 feet, and we could calculate distance based upon that. Again, our team lead is amazing at planning. He spent a lot of time poring over this, getting revisions done, working with the blueprinting guys. And so we had a map of what we needed to do and where we needed to do it.
And a lot of excess space.
Normally
we see 1 square between every machine.
That was due to floor loading concerns. We were on the 2nd floor of a building, and we were told when we were moving in, yeah, you're probably good for 120 pounds per square foot. And then they're like, well, it's probably closer to 100. And then they're like, well, you probably shouldn't do more than 80. So we had to keep adjusting.
So did you, when you were laying cable, do you have cable trays or did you just put it on the floor?
I'm not familiar with cable trays, so I'm going to say on the floor.
On the floor.
Okay. We'll see that.
It wasn't above the floor, it was the machine, so it wasn't on racks.
Well, no. Oh, yeah, no. It was under the raised floor. So we got out these boxes of cable. We unloaded them. We made a ton of labels. We had checklists to make sure that we didn't forget any of the bundles. We had a system for these cables go together with those cables. And Jones spent quite a lot of time figuring out where we messed things up whenever numbers didn't count right. Another funny story, again, we were trying to make everything go. They found all of these labels in a cabinet in our data center, and they were like, hey, these are perfect. These are just what we need. They printed them all. They tested a couple. They're like, this is going to be fantastic. We got everybody down there. We peeled off maybe 5 to 10 of the labels. And after we got that deep in, they all started falling apart. Some of them didn't stick. Some of them, the adhesive had all dried out. And, we were like, all right, we don't have any labels, so start scrambling and running to Staples, running to Office Max or whatever, and trying to find some that will fit, trying to, because we've got all this information for each of these labels we have to fit on there. We have the size that we were expecting to use. Now Jones is trying to redo the printing template with all of it, trying to fit all of the information into the new label size, because that's all we could buy. So there was some scrambling there. But ultimately, we did get the labels. We did get them printed. Our two girls here, Anna and Ashley, worked tirelessly to label, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 cables. And both ends have to be labeled. So that's 800 some odd labels that were applied by these two girls alone. They worked remarkably well. I mean, they did a phenomenal job. They didn't tear up the labels, and I don't know if anyone's ever tried to apply a label to a Ficon cable. It's not always easy to get them on there flat. It's pretty easy to get a lot of wrinkles in there. It's really easy for them to get just all kinds of messed up. These girls did an amazing job. Meanwhile, while they worked on that and made sure that all of the bundles were organized correctly, the rest of us worked with Tim, worked with the plans we had to start stretching these cables out across the floor. Make sure you don't step on them, especially the ends. We eventually found out it was a good idea to kind of tape them to tables so we didn't accidentally drag them every time someone walked by or as you're unrolling. But we started unrolling, and it's just it's a very long, boring process. Our team lead was very adamant that you do have to unroll the cable. You can't just stretch it out, because if you do that, you get all kinds of kinks in there. The moment you pull it, you get a little kink, and then it breaks the fiber, and all of a sudden you have a useless cable. So we spent a whole bunch of time walking backwards, unrolling these things. It was a journey. And this is proof that I did my part.
So how many devices did you have to move?
I don't actually have a count on that, but we moved two Z14s, two Z13s, a 15 and a 16. So that's what, six processors. We had quite a few different network racks. We had lots of DASD. We had some flash storage, tape drives. I would say probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 cabinets all together. That's a rough guess. Don't hold me to that one.
And an eclectic mix of that.
And yes, a very eclectic mix. So we'll continue here.
How many cables were short 1 inch?
Like I said, our planning guys are very good. We had a couple that you had to stretch just a little bit more than the others, but
Had to pull it out from the floor and reroute it a little bit different.
yeah, you go around this one instead of through. I mean, normally we try to kind of follow the floor, which means you get very linear 90-degree turns. There was a couple that kind of, closest distance between 2 points kind of deal. But
You spent some time with Pythagorean theorem.
yes. Pythagoras and I were good friends by the end of this. Now, for the most part, like I said, all of this planning, Tim worked. I'm sure there were some sleepless nights on his part. He had everything pretty close to perfect, which is just amazing. I'm not good at planning and executing that way. Much respect for him. So, let's see. I did say that our team is pretty good at dealing with each other, but even still, you occasionally get someone who says, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?"
Take the pictures.
And really and truly, when we were told we were moving, it came from management that they really wanted to document this process. They said, we really want to get as many pictures as possible. And as you'll see as we move on, lots of pictures were taken in the beginning, and it's very good. I mean, we were able to really document this. If you haven't seen it, there's a video that was put out. It's a lot of useful information. But as we move on, people became tired. And the cameras came out less, and people wanted to be videoed less. So we got a lot of pictures here in the beginning. Towards the end, it's going to be a lot of me recounting stories with just nothing to show for it, but it is what it is. We also did Ethernet, and each of the colors means something. More on that later. But we did the same thing with Ethernet. We unrolled it. It doesn't matter as much that you unroll it. If you get a kink in Ethernet, you can yank it on it. It's fine. But we still had to
Make you wait for 5 years.
What's that square thing with the little squares on it? There, to the upper right of the cables.
The black thing.
The black thing.
Telephone.
with the gray.
So our team lead was very adamant on having manual phones, and there it is.
I think you can call the president.
But it has buttons. You should have a dial.
Yeah, we couldn't get a rotary phone. But we were able to get the next best thing, which is an analog phone. He was so pleased with himself, too. He walked in just beaming ear to ear. He's got this manual telephone. He's like, I found a manual telephone. So, and again, we did the same thing. We unrolled, we bundled together based upon what was going where. We, Velcroed all of it together. We rolled it back up, and into the boxes it goes. Okay, so the idea was we take all of these boxes, we ship them via UPS to one of our guys who lives about an hour out of Poughkeepsie. That way it goes to his house, he can receive them, he can sign for them. There's no problems with, well, we delivered it to IBM, but we don't know where. We don't know where it went after that. It's in someone's data center, it's not yours. But so we mailed to one of our coworkers up there. And the plan was, on our way in, we would just drop by his house and load the boxes up and go. So
You were still operational during all of this?
we are still operational. The machines are still running. Customers are still connecting. This point, we are just prepping cable work so that when we move, we have it all there. Okay, and I think that's roughly the end of the cable party. There's the team. Some interesting stats. I already told you we probably did 400 some odd cables. Someone calculated it up. He said that we probably walked between rolling and unrolling somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 total miles. So I guess that means we had about 6 miles of fiber and Ethernet. Let's see what else. He had some other interesting stats. I don't recall. But that was the end of that. Oh, it was 110 total man hours worked to get all of this done. So I think there was 11 of us roughly. It took us about 2 days. I think that's like 10 hours or whatever. So we're gonna pause on this one for just a second. I don't have pictures of this part, okay? But this is where I come in a little bit more. So since this is the VM workshop, I'm going to focus for a second on the VM work we did to prepare our systems to move to Poughkeepsie. Again, our team lead plans for everything, and he said, hey, we're going to have all of these machines on this truck. What happens if one drives off a cliff, right? All of our customer data, all of our systems are all on DASD. What happens if shaking around we lose that DASD? So I was put in charge of making sure that we had contingency plans, we shall say. Okay. The first thing that I think you should all know about our VM systems is that they are very custom. It seems to have reached my ears that at one point IBM was suggesting that everyone customize their systems, security through obscurity or something like that. And let me tell you, it works wonderful because I've been working on our systems for 5 years and I still have no clue where some things are. So one of such customized facet of our system was our backups. We were using VM Backup and Restore Manager to take backups of the guests. Someone had decided to split it into 4 for reasons unbeknownst to me. Someone had decided to try very hard to make it use shared file system as little as possible and to hide where it was using it. There was a lot of peculiarities about it. So one of the things I did was strip all of that out and rebuild it. And of course I can't just turn it all off and go without backups for weeks. That's not an option. So I built a second level VM guest. I learned how to install the product. I learned how to configure the product. And at this point, I would like to thank Tracy so much. It was actually last year at the VM conference, Aaron and I both came over and said, please help us because we don't know what we're doing. There's also a Slack channel at IBM that was instrumental. There's a lot of people that hang out in that group, so there's a lot of community there that really helped us out, really answered a lot of questions we had. We were able to get this installed, we were able to get it set up, and 3 weeks before the day we shut everything down, I had it working on our new system, or on our first level systems. I will say that when I decided to cut over, when I decided to turn off all of the stuff we had been using and switch to the new stuff I had just gotten installed, there was a little bit of a scare. It was a Friday night. I wanted to do it at night after the backups had already been run for the day. I got it all started, turned on, brought up, and it ended. After hours and days of testing on the second level system, our first level system wasn't happy with it. This is a good time to tell you that I inherited this system from a lady named Jenny Bohart. I don't know if anyone knows her or not, but Jenny was a pretty amazing sysprog, and she took me under her wing when I started. Unfortunately, she passed away a couple of years ago now. But while I was trying to figure out this add-in, I'm digging through all kinds of notes, I'm digging through old config files, and I find a message from Jenny with her initials on it saying, hey, you need to increase this specific parameter to this on our systems or it won't work. And wouldn't you know it, that was the one parameter I needed to fix the add-in. It's like 3 a.m. Saturday morning, and I am on this system and I find a message from my predecessor telling me exactly what I need. And I just thought that was the most surreal moment. Maybe it's because I was sleep deprived, but it was a very surreal moment to me. So we've now got all of these, we've got our entire complex backed up on a brand new VTL. It's super fast. All of the stuff works, all the panels.
Same truck.
We did not put them on the same truck. As part of Jonesy's labeling scheme, he was very careful. This machine goes on this truck and this one goes somewhere else. So we had that, but that wasn't enough layers of contingency for our boss. He also wanted to make sure that if something happened, we could restore at least the core components of VM. He said, you know, the customers are told they're in a development and test environment. That means that if we lose all of their data, too bad. We encourage them to take their own backups of anything mission critical, and we tell them that all the backups we take are for convenience or in case we do something dumb and accidentally delete their system. So he wanted to make sure that we could at least restore VM. So we took a tape drive, a physical tape drive with physical tapes, and we, over the course of the couple of months, we carefully moved all of our crucial mini disks for VM onto some real volumes, a set of real volumes, and then we backed up those real volumes to tape and created an IP-eligible DDR tape so that in a worst case scenario, we could plug in that DDR tape, we could IPL, and we could restore a working ZVM system to, if needed, new DASD or restored DASD, whatever the case may be. So at this point, we've got layers upon layers upon layers of backups. We even had a IP-eligible ICK DSF disk. I wasn't sure how that was going to help us, but my boss said make it. I figured if we were at that point, it's too far gone. We might as well just hang up our hats and that's it. So, so the night has come. It's the
Good
night.
IPL with the VSEN standalone utility tape, and it gives you and fast copy and ditto.
So they never offered to let you use Global Bearer?
Knew someone was going to ask about that. Unfortunately, it wasn't an option for us, for reasons.
Does this go back to the cheaper, better, faster triangle?
Yeah, you can say that.
Probably too cheap to put it on the hardware.
So it was not available to us, unfortunately. That's all I'm going to really say about it. So the night has come. It's time to shut these systems down. It's time to get them packed up. It's time to load them onto trucks. 1 minute after midnight, I think it was a Friday night, we told all of our customers, hey, systems are going down, and they'll be down for at least 1 week. Okay? Aaron and I got to work. We took the VM systems to a minimal state. We backed up all of our core disks. Aaron being in Poughkeepsie, or close to Poughkeepsie, being remote, he had like 4 or 5 VM IDs all running different tape drives, and my job was to stand there and stick tapes in. Nobody got any pictures of that, but we're done. We get all that done, and now I'm jumping in, as you can see here, to help everybody else unpack, or not unpack, unhook, pack up the machines, etc. So these next few photos are going to be our team working on that. Now, more lists, more these things have to go to Poughkeepsie, make sure they're loaded, make sure they're accounted for, make sure they're boxed if they're a smaller item. Again, our guys are, especially Jones and Tim, they are very good at making sure they've thought of everything. And that is critical in this kind of scenario. There's Jonesy, he's standing at the loading dock. This is where the trucks are going to get loaded, and it was his job to make sure that everything on his list was marked off by the time they left. And there's the dock. I did try to avoid including too many photos here of the people from the moving company. I don't know that I would have had their release. I do have release from everyone on my team, so that's why you won't see a lot of photos of them loading the trucks, but there was some photos of them loading the trucks, and it was an ordeal. So here is the tapes that we were keeping for customers. Whenever we were in Dallas, we actually had staff that would mount tapes for you if you needed a tape mount. Some of our customers leveraged this for writing tape programs. Some people just used it as their own personal backup, like we recommended. Fortunately, now that we're 1,600 miles away, we can't offer that anymore. But just in case any data was lost during the move, all of these were inventory, all of these were scanned, loaded into boxes, and shipped to Poughkeepsie with everything. And then we set to work. There's some tasks that the CEs had to do. I think they're called SRs now, but our team still calls them CEs. But there's a lot of tasks that our team was able to do. There's a lot of things like taking doors off of machines, things like unhooking Ficon, Ethernet, etc. And so we did. We set to work, pick up the feet so that they can roll, do all of that kind of stuff. And so here we are just, going after it. It's probably 3 or 4 in the morning at this point, whenever we're dismantling stuff and the SSRs arrive on site. Oh, and all of the networking that had to come down. Those are our 2 network guys, Vance and Jim. They had to put all this back together when we got there, so lots of pictures taken, lots of planning there. I don't know what this photo is other than don't lose this. That is absolutely the face of we need this. I don't know what's going on here, but like I said, we're the kind of team that jokes around, we have fun. This is people running on very little sleep, and they're still able to have a good time and have sword and shield battles with what looks like the top of a server and some screwdrivers, so that's fun. The CEs arrived on site, they did the parts that we can't, things like draining the machines, splitting the frames apart. I think they actually did the final shutdown on machines through the support elements, I'm not positive on that. But they worked with us at ridiculous hours to get all of this done before morning. And again, we helped out where we could. Here's one of our guys helping one of the CEs take apart tape drives. Got all the doors off, bound. There's one of the fill drain tools, taking the water out of one of the machines. Thought that was kind of neat. They won't let me run one, I don't know why. And there's one mostly dismantled. Looks like there's still some fiber coming into it, but I think that's been drained or something. And again, we split the frames, so we let the CEs do that. So yeah, all of our machines are 2 to 3 frame machines, so they had to be split. Then we got out the shrink wrap, and we shrink wrapped Z machines. We did this with everything, not just the Zs. We did this with our racks, our networking gear, all of that. Turns out someone may maybe have forgotten to make sure one of the servers was actually secure in the rack. Someone, it was not me. It was definitely one of the network guys because it was a network server.
Always a network guy.
But we did a really good job other than that. That one machine that we forgot to secure, everything else made it. We shrink wrap them. We put moving blankets around them so they wouldn't get banged up while they're going down the hallways. There was a video, I don't have a picture, but we had a freight elevator that we had to put these into, and it was a tight fit. We actually had one girl squeeze in there. If you see the videos that were put online, there's a video of her talking into the camera in the freight elevator with a Z, and it's standing room only. I mean, it's lucky she's a thin girl, we'll put it that way. So there they all are. And by about 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning, the movers arrived. So we're still not done. You know, we've got machines ready to go, but we still have cabinets full of gear. We still have all kinds of resources that we need. This has to all be accounted for. So while the movers are putting these onto the trucks, we are double checking everything. We are making sure everything is in a box on the truck. We're not going to forget anything. And here's the queue of the machines going into the trucks down at the dock.
Did he plan the queue too?
Probably. Knowing Jones, probably. There's our data center with nothing left in it hardly.
What was your committed outage time for this to?
We told the customers it was our aim to be down no longer than 1 week. So
What was your final downtime?
we're getting to that. So this is morning coffee and breakfast, you know, after we've worked all night. And there's the final people rubbing their eyes. And some people, I think Tim actually was awake until 5 p.m. the next day working on things. I fell out somewhere around noon and went home and went to bed. So it's now the weekend. We're not traveling to Poughkeepsie until Sunday. We get together and have a dinner at Uncle Julio's. We bond. We say, wow, that really sucked. And next week is going to suck more. But we had a good time. We all, again, this is important stuff. You know, this is how your team can work well together, especially under pressure, especially under stressful conditions. It's because we all get along. And I'm not saying that it's possible for everyone to get along all the time, always. But I am saying that team building exercises and spending time with your coworkers so that you don't hate them is useful.
Yeah, clearly the meetings go up and only help.
Yes. So there's all of us. All right, so this is the planes, trains, and automobiles part. We all had to get to Poughkeepsie, and we all chose diverse methods of getting there. I mean, almost everyone flew in, but we flew into different cities. Jones and I flew in closer to where Aaron lives so that we could stop at his house and pick up those Ethernet boxes. Some people flew into LaGuardia, and I forget the other one, but we were in Newark. I forget the other one that some people flew into, but we all probably, yeah. We all flew in. Some people rode trains, some people booked cars, as you'll see. Some people went through Grand Central, and there's us in the... So we stop at the Hertz, Jones and I. We know we have to pick up boxes. And we're asking them, we're really begging them. We're like, hey, yeah, even if it's light duty, you have like a pickup truck or a van or anything. They put us in a Chevy Equinox. Not exactly the largest of vehicles. So we get to Aaron's house and we're like, this is what we got. Aaron's like, it's okay, I've got this nice big, it's like a Lincoln Aviator or something. He goes, we can put boxes in it too. It'll be okay. Great. So we start putting boxes in this Equinox and we're folding down seats and moving stuff out of the way. And we're looking at the number of boxes left. We're like, yeah, this is never going to work. But then we're like, well, if we scoot this over here, we could fit another one. We could fit another one here. You know, if I'll scoot my seat forward a little bit, we can get a couple more. We got it. We got every single one of them into that Chevy Equinox
Original.
somehow. Now, rear view mirrors were useless at this point. We weren't seeing anything out of that mirror. But and it was just because we could. Again, we had that entire Lincoln Aviator. We could have put boxes in. But there's just this competitive spirit that makes you ask, can I?
That's making sense.
How bad were your knees when you got
I
there?
know.
You see the whole place forward.
Well, it's only like an hour from his house to Poughkeepsie, so I was used to doing this from the plane, right? Not too bad.
Oh, you just pretend you're the plane, okay.
So we get to Poughkeepsie. Actually, Jones and I, probably because Jones was driving, we arrived pretty much ahead of everybody else. So we unloaded the boxes, got them all into the data center, the new data center, and we had some downtime. We had some time before everyone else arrived. So we got up to no good and went on a snack run.
Essentials.
It is essentials because we didn't leave that data center very often. So having some food and drinks was a good call. So we had our refreshment table set up. And then we started breaking down boxes. And this is where I realized I really miss my knife. I really miss having a pocket knife. We ended up using someone found a piece of metal that was sort of kind of sharp, and so we used the edge to cut open boxes. We didn't even have keys because the Equinox had one of the sensor keys where you just push the button. We didn't have anything. So
You ship the tools with stuff next time.
nowadays, I've learned that you can put certain things on checked luggage, including pocket knives and multi-tools. This was not a time I knew that. But we started unpacking the cable. We had our floor plan. We knew where things were going to go whenever they arrived. But right now, the floor is empty. So we set about using more labels to mark out where the floors are, or where the machines are going to be on the floor. We had to take floor tiles and put them down to let the cables come through. And we started pulling up floor. A little bit of a tripping hazard. Mind your step. Never mind the fact that, again, it's getting later and later into the night. We're getting tired. We're, a little road weary from the early flights. And watch where you're stepping, right? It's not a recipe for disaster. It worked out fine. So, lots of spaghetti. We started unrolling cable and getting it ready to go. Again, our goal was Monday morning, those trucks are set to arrive. We want to roll those machines off into their place and have the cable ready to go. So it's Sunday night, and we worked, I think, until 2:30 a.m. We did stop for a little break for food. We went to a little Chinese place that was right there next to the data center. But we worked until, I think it was 2:30 by the time we finished. And we got all of it under the floor, most of it even in the right location. There was a couple we had to move the next day, but most of it went to the right place. And I told you there was that one rack that was already there. They went ahead and started setting it up. At this point, I'd like to shout out the AT&T people. They had to do some creative solutions, but we actually had internet even that night available to us, so we could start using it and bringing things up. So there was a particular guy, I don't know his name, but he went above and beyond in getting us hooked up and connected. That's the half of the floor that was not complete. I remember I said that the floor was not completed. This is how it looked. And one of our setbacks was that whenever they were tearing up all that old floor and putting down new floor, they discovered asbestos. And we had to do asbestos.
Yeah, that's 9x9s. Any 9x9 had asbestos in it.
So that was exciting. That was one of the reasons why things had to be kind of rearranged at the last minute. But don't worry, Jones said that he was more than happy to help get the job done. So he's a nut. So I think that is the end of Sunday night. Now it's Monday morning, and the trucks are pulling in right on schedule. They are full of stuff. And so we start unloading. Just a Congo line of machines coming into the data center, and the movers, they're doing their job, they're doing their obligations, but really our team is the ones who's looking at the different things and going, okay, we don't need this right now, it can go to the staging area. This is critical infrastructure, we need to take it to this location. And so here's a whole bunch of the machines off the truck and onto their hopefully forever homes. Now, I had a very important job here. My job was to direct traffic between onto the floor and into the storage. Never mind the fact that since we had popped awake at 7:30 that morning, I was less than chipper. So I found a nice seat and a nice job where I could direct traffic and not have to move too much. So our new SSRs in Poughkeepsie showed up and started work right away. We started plugging in the machines. We started putting water in them, doing the initial startup and everything. We actually had machines running, so to speak, by the end of Monday night. So we definitely weren't ready to bring everything up, but the machines were on, drawing power. The fans were whirring. We only had a couple of failures, surprisingly. So there they are, doing their thing. In the meantime, all that cable we ran under the floor, we started getting it out and plugging it in. Our manager, who was very new to our team at the time, we had just changed managers, was actually really good about jumping in and helping, even though she had no clue what she was doing. It's okay, we got her some adult supervision. And everything actually worked, so no mistakes there. It was really nice. Finished the machine after we got it all managed and taken care of. So we had some Ethernet stuff too. Like I said, it was a mixed connectivity in this lab. And there were some mistakes that we had to rearrange things. That would be Jones and me. We had some jokes. I was asking if this floor tile made my butt look big. But we made it. We got it taken care of. Meanwhile, the construction crew was just on the other side of a piece of plastic doing their thing, so there's all kinds of fun noises and smells coming from that. But they were diligently expanding our raised floor. We got a little homesick, so we went to Texas Roadhouse that night. Texas Roadhouse in New York. The next day, Tuesday, we got a care package from home. We have a lady who is quite the baker, and she's kind of like a grandmother type, right? She is extremely sweet and nice to everyone and keeps us organized, but boy, do not cross her. Luckily, she was in a good mood, so she sent us all kinds of cakes and cookies, and it was right there at the refreshment station. Nice little taste of home. Yeah, the sugar kept us going. That's me when I wake up in the mornings. There was not enough coffee in the world for the hours we were putting in. We were regularly there past midnight, and every morning we were downstairs at 7:30 ready to go. We made it. We had a couple of new guys on the team, like Tucker. He really jumped in and pitched in and did the work, So everyone was contributing, even people who weren't quite sure what they were doing. We found them a job, we put them on it, they did their work. So, this is a story. This is a tape drive with no drives in it. This is, I want to say Wednesday. Sounds right. So at this point, we have all the machines up and running, and it's time to start working on the extra infrastructure, things like tape drives. So we're rolling them out of our staging area onto the floor, getting them hooked up. Jones comes to me and he goes, "Hey, do you know what the CEs did with the drives out of that tape drive?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I don't think we took any of the drives out. I think we shipped them with the drives in." He goes, No, come look at this. So I look at it and I'm like, "Yeah, that's weird. You'll ask Tim." So he goes and asks Tim, "Where's the drives in that tape drive?" Tim goes, "You're going to have to show me because that doesn't make any sense." We walk over here. He shows it to him. He looks at it and he goes, "The heck did those go?" And then they walked around to the other side. We are not sure what happened to this machine. We are not sure if it was negligence on the mover's part or what, but it seems like it took a hard tumble.
Yeah.
So that was a thing. There's the drives. Turns out they hit the back so hard. This is a tape drive the way it's supposed to look. This is a tape drive the way ours actually looked. Luckily, it was not our only tape drive. We did have a backup on that, so that's good. But it was quite catastrophic.
So to that one box?
Just the one box. So we had one server that was not put in a rack good, and it flopped around and tore up the server, but it didn't actually tear up anything else, just a couple of dents. And then we had the one tape drive that we are sure was packed up correctly. We think maybe it got loose in the truck, maybe it just wasn't secured well, we're not sure, but when we unwrapped it, that's how it looked. So here's another late night, I think it's 1:30 in this picture. Tim is telling us all what our battle plan is for the next day. I'm gonna stop here real quick and tell two funny stories. Jones is a prankster at all times, okay? It does not matter what the occasion is, he will find a good way to tell a joke. So when we're getting ready for this meeting, he's crawling around under the raised floor, okay? And Tim is just like, will someone find Jones? And we had just seen him duck out underneath the floor. So Vance gets down there with his flashlight, looks down under the floor, looks around, and he goes, I don't see him, where did he go? So a few minutes later, Jones pops back up from underneath the floor and shows us a video he took on his iPhone of Vance's head coming down everywhere except where Jones was, saying, I don't see him, and popping back up.
Well, you should have been able to see the big green eyes.
Yeah. It was just one of those moments, one of those only Jones would do this kind of thing. The other funny story is, and I should have told this a little earlier, but it just crossed my mind. Again, Tim is the king of planning. He knew how many SSRs would be assisting us with putting the machines back together. So whenever we were working, when we were rolling those tape drives out, there's a CE over there working on a tape drive. And Tim goes over to him and goes, hey man, you know, I don't really need these. These are not critical. Can you help with the other stuff? And the guy looked at him and goes, oh, I only do tape. That's all I do. I'm a CE just for tape. And Tim's like, he looks at him for a second, he goes, all right, I have one less CE. And goes about his business. We started calling him Tape Bro, because he's like a taller, good-looking, athletic guy. I mean, he's older, right? But you can tell he's in good shape. And he just knows his stuff on tape, so he became Tape Bro. We christened him Tape Bro. This is important for later. So this is the end of the night. We're tired, but the machines are up, and we actually were able to activate some LPARs and things. It is Wednesday night. We're ahead of schedule. Things are looking good. We had Mexican food that night because we missed home.
Oh, I'm shocked.
So this is where the pictures start to get really sparse, and we just got to talk about, you know, things that happen. This is the face of despair. This is I'm running on like 4 hours of sleep over the last 3 days, and I don't know what I'm doing on this team. So he's really rethinking his career decisions in this picture, I think. But it was, I mean, I cannot tell you the number of times where like I've plugged in so many cables, surely we must be done, and Tim's like, no, we've got like 12 more machines. It was a never-ending battle. So even on Thursday, we're still plugging stuff in. And there's documentation because, again, when we're done moving, we fly back home to Dallas. We have 2 guys that are sort of kind of close that can take an hour-long drive into Poughkeepsie, but you really don't want to do that for, oops, I forgot to flip the switch. Can you go drive over there and do it? So everything had to be documented down to power. And if maybe you don't know, it's not uncommon to have power dips in New York. This was news to me because in Dallas, our power only goes out whenever we have an apocalyptic snowstorm. So apparently it is common in New York for the power to just straight up dip, and we experienced it. I was in Poughkeepsie last week. We experienced it twice in the week I was there. So to prepare for this, Tim actually got us put on 2 separate circuits, and every single machine, we had to mark which circuit was on which leg and ensure that they were dual powered on each circuit. Every single server, everything, we had to make sure if it supported dual power at all, it was on both circuits so that it could survive one of these power droops. And that meant a lot of documentation. That meant chasing things all the way back to the breaker, marking down circuit numbers, these big long spreadsheets of this circuit terminates at this grid address. It was a lot of stuff, and you don't really photograph that kind of stuff, but it is necessary to make something like this successful. Aaron and Angie, he got one of the Z's cabled up. This was exciting because once the Z's are cabled up and we've got DASD connectivity, we can maybe start looking at an IPL, and this is what we really wanted to do this day. I wanted to do it Wednesday night. I was disappointed. everyone was like, we're going back to the hotel and going to sleep. I'm like, guys, it's already 2:30. Let's just get it IPL.
So it was Thursday morning.
It was Thursday afternoon when we IPL'd.
No, the 2 o'clock in the morning was,
Oh, right, Thursday. No, you're right, you're right. So this is an excellent time to point something out. Here I am helping cable up a machine. This is how I see the world. I'm very colorblind, and I do a very good job of cheating. I'm pretty good at, like, yellow is not blue, so I can tell the yellow fiber from the blue fiber. I'm pretty good about a lot of reckoning, like, oh, this cable can't be right, it's got to be this or that or whatever. Due to an incident, we were cabling one of the machines. Jones was passing me a bundle of cables. He said, hey, the 2 green cables go to the SE, run them up into the SE. I'm like, gotcha, 2 green cables. I know there's got to be 2 green Ethernet. These cables come under the floor. I've got all this fiber, and I've got 2 green cables. Great, easy. Run them up through there, plug them in. Everything's great. Plug in all the fiber, plug in everything else. We're good to go. I go about my business. While we were passing it under the floor, one of the anchors that was installed for the conduit or whatever happened to snag 2 cables, unbeknownst to anybody. So those 2 cables were peeled off of our bundle and were sitting underneath the machine. Next day, the CE comes up to Jones and says, hey man, there's something weird about this machine. This one's not like the others, and it's not responding the way we would expect it to. So Jones walks over and looks up at this thing and he goes, what kind of idiot? And then stops and goes, I know what kind of idiot. As it turns out, I'm blind as all get out. So they ribbed me about that for a good long while. The 2 cables that had been passed under that survived were an orange and a green cable. I dutifully plugged those in. There was another orange and green cable under the floor. So it was a good source of amusement. To this day, people will still like, you see that? You sure this is the right one? This is a green cable play. This is green. So, all right, we're getting towards the end here, which is good because I'm actually doing great on time. Again, less pictures towards the end. But this is us triumphant. We IPL a day early, or half a day early. So we beat our estimates. We have customers getting on the system. We had a power droop that night that accidentally knocked out 2 machines, and we had to re-IPL, but hey, who's counting? Angie bought us, our manager bought us some treats as celebration. Again, job's not done. There's still lots of things that need to be hooked up and whatnot, but we're getting. So this is a good point to stop and talk about something that happened on Thursday. There's a lot of cleanup. There's a lot of documenting, boring stuff, walking, drive. They pulled drives out of it. They have one split all the way down to the circuit boards, and they are just like going after it. They are like, they makeshift a hammer out of something, and we're like pounding on the frame. And I'm like, guys, that looks like fun. I want to join you, but why aren't you working? Like, shouldn't you be working? Son of a gun, they fixed the stupid thing. They got 2 out of the 4 drives to function, and Tape Bro was even surprised. Tape Bro was like, I have never seen anything like this. They started calling themselves BEs after this. They were bootleg engineers. Tape Bro says, these machines will not work with 1 drive. You have to have at least 2. And wouldn't you know it, they managed to fix 2 of the 4. This is how the machine looked after they were done beating on it and working on it. It's still not right, but it actually mounted and read tapes correctly. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody thought they would actually do that. And somehow they did. So kudos to them, I guess. If you ever bust up a tape drive, call Jones. So again, there's not many pictures here beyond this because some people had to go back to Dallas earlier. One guy was really interested in making sure he started his vacation on time. The days go on and it's just sitting with clipboards, typing out spreadsheets, trying to make sure everything is as documented as possible. We went to Olive Garden in Poughkeepsie that night, which everyone was like, why are we going to Olive Garden? But nobody wanted to suggest anything else. They're like, we're in Poughkeepsie, there's amazing Italian food here. Why are we going to Olive Garden? Okay, where do you want to go then? I don't know. We went to Olive Garden in Poughkeepsie. This is us Thursday after completing our test. We're done, we're dead, we're tired.
The sugar wore off.
We're up and running. So yeah, there was no pictures taken on Friday. There were a few videos. I'm not going to try playing sound over this, would be awful. So there's no pictures taken on Friday. But again, another boring day. A lot of people gone, just trying to get everything documented. Saturday, more the same. I call this photo "Help! I've fallen and I can't get up." Just a ribbon. And yeah, lots of cleanup, lots of moving boxes, throwing stuff into the trash. That was it. I mean, at that point, we were out of time. Everything was running. We had to go back home, and we just hoped we had everything the way we needed it to. We've been able to travel a couple of more times, but it was, it's you do stuff when you can. You go to Poughkeepsie when you can manage to secure funding to go. So, but we've been successful. We had everything we needed. We haven't had any major catastrophes on site, and our documentation has held up. So all that effort was worth it. And to finish this off, I've got another one of Jones's pranks that he left us with. So we had fun with this. It was a lot of work, and it's not something I want to do again anytime soon. But we did have fun with this, and I think that's an important facet of why we were successful. If there's any other questions.
Did they finish your asbestos abatement there?
They did, and it actually finished early. We're not quite sure how. We're not sure if they just decided to not disturb the asbestos and leave it alone or what, but it was finished, and they certified us to continue work.
And then they finished out the rest of your raised flooring?
Yes, as of now, the full floor is there. The half that they finished actually has even less floor load, according to the structural engineers or whatever they are. So all of the machines have to be on one end, and we can put cabinets and stuff on the other. But we do have a full raised floor at this point. Anything else? All right.
Congratulations, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.